if I was sitting there as a Norwich fan now, I'm kind of thinking, kind of shows that the club doesn't have a strategic direction.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer. Thanks for joining us through this abysmally boring international break. England versus Albania. God, I'm so excited. I'll tell you what I'm not excited about, Scott. Is this our third or fourth Norwich video in 7 days? We've never done so much coverage on one club. And it has to be Norwich. I love it.
I mean, what a fiasco over the last week. Obviously, we thought Lampard was done. It looked like it was pretty much announced in a couple of places. A couple of places were announcing it. And then suddenly on the last minute, it looks like Lampard's pulled the plug. Yes, we might have announced it ourselves. But in our fairness, we did see a couple of places actually say that it was all announced. I mean, it looks like Lampard's pulled the plug on the idea. And it's left Norwich in a bit of a worrying time. And of course, it means Dean Smith now appears to be the man that's coming in, and it's rumoured to be a 2.5-year deal.
I think that's future-proofing, I think is the right term, future-proofing for the Championship. I don't rate Dean Smith as a manager. If you're a Villa fan and that offends you, I'm sorry. He got a lot of help with Jack Grealish, and I've got some stats to kind of back up my point. But yeah, I think what happened to Dean Smith this season is Dean Smith's level. I think he'll keep a Villa team 4 or 5 points above relegation. I think if he managed Arsenal, they'd finish about 9th. I think if he managed City, they'd finish 4th. I just think he's that manager. I think he's a few rungs below everyone else.
I think it's an interesting one as well, isn't it? Because the point I wanted to make straight away is it shows that Norwich as a club must not have any strategic direction. And what I mean by that is people might harshly say that Lampard was the man. Now, this is an interesting one because I think for me and I think for a lot of football fans, sometimes when we see a manager like, given the sack and then another manager gets announced the next day, you're like, is that really good? They've kind of done all this behind his back. But do you know what? They tend to be the ones that the clubs that end up successful. The ones that don't, maybe Norwich wanted Lampard from the start, but you at least should go to him and check that he's really behind the idea. They seem to have spent a week trying to convince him, and to say Frank Lampard weren't convinced is really worrying. And I do have to say, I don't know what kind of pedestal Frank Lampard thinks he's on, to be honest, because I think he should be, although I didn't agree with it from a Lampard point of view, or I thought it wasn't the right idea really for Norwich either. I do think you've been offered a Premier League club. He should be biting that with everything he can to have another shot at Premier League club.
It is an odd one. I'm caught between it. A part of me is like, Frank, who do you think you are? Like, go take the job. You never know. If you keep them up, you're seen as a hero. You're the next Bob Paisley. Do you know what I mean? Matt Busby. If you keep Norwich up, you'll stop. Rockets. And if you take them down, it was expected. See what you can do in the Championship. You got Derby very close, but we can do a whole video on why Frank didn't take the job. Should he have taken it? Dean Smith is the man, Scott. Yes or no question, does he keep them up?
No, and I think the first point I want to make is when I made a plea for Villa to actually keep him for a bit longer, just because I like the idea that he was a boyhood Villa fan. It was his club. Give him a bit of a chance with the money he spent, Grealish going. But the more I spoke to Villa fans, the more I realised that he was probably a bit out of his depth, actually. And one thing I really picked up from them is that he'd started to play a long ball system. Teemu Pukki is 5'9". So unless he's going to change his whole style, it just doesn't make sense to me. What's he going to do? What's he going to do that's going to keep them up? And I think you alluded to at the start of the video. Well, he'll probably do well and get them back up. They already had that in Fark.
Yeah, what they've done is, I think I said this when Daniel Fark got sacked. I can't remember which of the 4 videos we've done on Norwich this week it was. I forgot. But on one of the videos, I did say something like, either keep Fark, go down, let him get you back up, get rid of him on the 1st of June and get someone in, or either get rid of him and bring in a manager who arguably, because it looked like it was going to be Frank. So I said, why get rid of someone like Farke and bring in Frank, who no experience keeping a team in the league? Even Dean Smith has very little experience in this. Let's not forget, Dean Smith kept Villa up because they forgot to turn on goal line technology in their first season. Last season was a Fugazi season. Have you seen the win percentage from last season for Villa when Jack Grealish doesn't start? It's abysmal. It's relegation form. And he's been found out this season, lost 5 games in a row. They weren't even, it's not like he played 5 of the top 7. He played Wolves and they were struggling so much. Other teams in around mid-table, a couple of decent fixtures. But this one, to me, makes no sense.
I was going to say, I think that's what's interesting about this is they've brought in a manager that's just come off the back of being sacked. Obviously, he's not going to feel too great about being sacked by his boyhood club. He was only sacked a week ago, let's not forget. And, you've also then got the fact, as you've just said, he's lost 5 on the bounce. So he's not exactly a manager that's in winning form. In fact, Farke had more winning form than him. An interesting one for you, I wanted to ask you is, what do you think he's done to win them over? Because I don't think he could have done much at all. Because it's not like for me that he's, I think it was they've spoke about how for Newcastle he came in with this whole presentation about the players, how he wanted them to play. I don't think Dean Smith's had that time to even be able to do that.
I think it got to the point where they said Dean Smith's managed in the Prem. Frank Lampard's turning us down. Should we give it Dean? I think Dean Smith is portrayed in the media quite well. He's a nice guy. If that was your wife's uncle, he'd be all right. You'd have a pint with him. He's one of those guys. He does seem like a really, really nice guy. It reminds me a lot of Chris Wilder, one of those people. He'll get teams promoted. Probably not going to do much more than that in the Premier League. Scott, to answer your question, I don't think he would have had to have done much. It's just the fact that a Premier League manager came available, or if you don't take Dean Smith, you're either going abroad for 1, or 2, you're going back 10 years and jumping in the English graveyard of Mark Hughes, Alan Pardew, Sam Allardyce. Yeah, you don't want to be jumping. You don't want to be jumping down that route again. So
it's an interesting.
Sorry.
I was just going to say it's an interesting one, isn't it? When you think about that, is the fact that if I was sitting there as a Norwich fan now, I'm kind of thinking, kind of shows that the club doesn't have a strategic direction. What was their view with Farke? I mean, maybe it was Lampard, but I don't really know. And you did bring up one name there. Would Chris Wilder, I mean, obviously he's just joined Middlesbrough. Would he have been a better option, in your opinion, than Dean Smith?
I think so. I think based on his first season with Sheffield United, got caught out with second season syndrome, very, very bad season. Lost Dean Henderson. Obviously, Ramsdale's season, that season wasn't the greatest, although he's not the player he is now. Obviously, he's playing very well. I think Chris Wilder said something in the paper, didn't he? Or to someone saying, if I'd have had that, Ramsdale would have stayed up quite easily. But I like him. I do like Chris Wilder. What was your question?
I was saying, would you have preferred Wilder over?
I answered it. Yeah, it's been a long day. Yeah. 100 for me, absolutely. Scott, when Dean Smith, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but because football changes so quickly. When he took Villa up, they finished 5th with a very good team. They finished 3 points above 7th. So this isn't someone that's got 2 or 3 promotions under their belt, like a Neil Warnock or an Allardyce or someone like that. He scraped a playoff place by 3 points. I forget the team that finished 7th. Should have taken them down the next season. Someone forgot to switch on goal line technology. And Jack Grealish had the season of his career last season and just about played enough games to give this man the impression, or give us the impression, that this man's a good manager, which I don't think he is. How long do you give him? If he takes them down, they're not going to get rid of him, are they? Because they're not expecting him to keep them up.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think if he goes down, as long as he, we're not sitting here at the end of the season talking about a 10, 15 point margin from, you want him to at least give a fight, wouldn't you? I mean, maybe that's a little harsh, but 15 points or something, you'd probably get rid then. But
I don't rate him, but I've got to be honest. If I'm going to give Dean Smith any credit, I think he could do his best and they could finish on 18, 20 points this season. Norwich, I think they're that bad.
Well, another thing you've got to say is that Villa themselves have been conceding goals left, right, and centre this season. That's not been their strength, and they're bringing in a manager into a team that's currently conceding more than, on average, was it more than 5 a game or something daft?
Yeah, they concede 5 for every 1 they score. It was laughable when Frank Lampard was being linked because he can't. You know, his style at Chelsea was we'll try and outscore you. And Dean Smith's defensive record isn't brilliant. Even last season, if you look at Villa's defensive record, they scored a lot of goals, but they did ship some. I don't think Norwich know what they're doing anyway, but disappointment screams of just get us promoted last year, and the usual suspects, Bournemouth, Norwich, Fulham, West Brom, they probably will come up next season, won't they? So 22-23, Norwich, welcome back to the Premier League.
And I think it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, it kind of already answers my final question, but what is he going to do with Norwich, and where do you now predict Norwich to finish in the Premier League?
What's he going to do? I think Norwich fans this season would just like to win 7 or 8 games, you know, go out to the ground, whether it's home or away. First of all, try and beat Derby's record. I think that's the most important thing. Try and get to 25, 30 points. Dean Smith, try and play good football. If you're going to lose 5-2. You know,
and I think that's what worries me about Smith. I don't see that with Smith, and I have to say the same. I think, unfortunately for Norwich, I think a 20th place finish now, and it could be by quite a stretch that they miss out on staying up to. But Norwich fans, let us know if you massively disagree. Let us know if you're happy with this appointment. I'll be shocked if the Norwich fans that actually do. But yeah, and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as always. Then we shall hopefully see you on the next one, and hopefully it's not another Norwich video.
Probably will. They'll sack Dean Smith next week, so we'll do another one.
We'll be back to Norwich again. We might as well change the name to Talk Norwich TV or something. But yeah, there we go. See you on the next one. Goodbye.